Okay, I think that's working. I think we have started streaming now. Has begun. Hello one and all, and welcome. If you're watching the video, this is going to be a tier list stream covering Nurgle and Zinch rosters. The ugliest rosters. The ugliest people. Okay. Let me just post that.
Who are you calling ugly here?
You. Is there anyone here?
Disgusting.
We have a special guest, Zerk. You could, Smooth, okay, that's sorted. And without further ado, we may as well get started then. Let's see which one. We've got the old fly boys first. Yeah, do they not have? Oh, they do. Yeah, they do. Okay. Oh, I forget all the names of the units because they all have different names, despite being like the same thing, just with a guy on the back instead of a. So it's Pox Riders, but they're the ranged version. Which one's Plague Drones with Death Heads? Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I should know that, but yeah. Let's go with Plague Drones.
Okay, that's a bad zoom out. Let's do this.
Okay, so the first one is the one on the left. I think those are the one without the range attack.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah, because they haven't got a range attack. Good point. They can see the other one's throwing ahead. This isn't going as well. How about I just pull the Discord over?
Hello, Viscount.
Hello, Weelo. Okay, where is this? Where is this? Which one is it? 1-1. It's not Plague Drones, Death Heads. Why is there 2 Plague Drones of Nurgle Death Heads? It's not Pox Riders. It's the. Hey, how separated they are. What are they called? The mounted rotflies?
Really shouldn't. I mean, they're not meta. That's why you don't know them. They're called Plague Drones of Nurgle, but not the ones with death heads.
You don't have that one here.
No, they're.
You just have 2 Plague Drones with Nurgle Death Heads. I'll start with that one while you bring the next one up. So we've got Plague Drones of Nurgle. These are flying monstrous cavalry. They throw a single target. I don't think it has any splash damage. Missile that is mainly good at taking out like big entities on their own. It's not so good at taking down, infantry blobs because it's mainly for a model by model basis, as opposed to anything else. So I don't think of these that highly. I don't know about what you like us.
You have to see them in what there's like. Nurgle is shit at taking down large, and if you're not afraid of getting out-aired or outshot, then they're good. So they're good if you can outnumber Khorne in the air, and Slanesh probably. But I mean, depending. So
where would you put them? Do you think on a tier list, an S through to F?
I mean, honestly, you could probably take away S, A, B, but...
No, but this is relative to. This is relative.
Maybe C or D. Maybe probably.
I'd probably C. C, I guess. Yeah, C. Yeah, C. C seems alright. C seems comfortable. And then have you got the regular Pox ones? I'm pretty sure they're exactly the same stat-wise, but they don't have a ranged attack, so I can just look at this still.
Wait, god damn it, I didn't put them in.
I'm pretty sure they are exactly the same stat-wise, so just look at the melee stats. They just have less ranged attack, and then they are like 200 gold cheaper, I think.
300.
300, not cheaper, so it's a lot better. It is a great improvement, but the question is are you using them for their melee capabilities? Because they're really the best thing you have. One of the best things you have for quick anti-large, even though they themselves are not anti-large, just because they're big models. If you surround a single entity, you can usually get it down pretty quick. But the question is are they that good? Personally, I just tend to spam rotflies whenever I need that, instead of using the mounted versions.
Yeah, probably fair. Like, I know they're supposed to be good versus large, but they cost too much for that. So,
would you put them better than or worse than these ranged units? The ranged version?
I would honestly put them worse than the ranged, because the ranged version is at least you can stay up and do the damage, and it's decent against large targets, single entities. So I would put them above the ranged.
Above the ranged.
Yeah, but B tier seems very high.
Yeah, maybe just keep them with C. I think just same tier is fair.
Yeah.
Next we have the Pox Riders. Actually, may as well just get the Rotflies out of the way. Let's do all the flies at once. Rotflies, these are the unmounted variant as a trade-off for their much cheaper. I think these are only like 900, so like 400 cheaper. Yep. But they have less melee defense. These guys have like 36 melee defense. The Rotflies have only 24, but I think they have the same melee attack, 31, yeah. And they still have the AP. The weapon strength is slightly less. But again, they are a lot cheaper. It's the same number of models and such. I use these more often than the mounted variant, just because they're less of an investment. I'm tempted to put them at B. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say Rotflies are B. They're definitely better than both of the mounted versions. Because, like, again, they're basically your anti-large capabilities, because that's Nurgle is a roster without any anti-large or ranged.
Yeah, they have nothing that's anti-large.
Yeah, good job. CA probably had a plan, but
yeah, they're waiting for DLC units to pump out. Then they can be anti-large. Yeah. Next, looking at the Pox Riders, these are the mounted frogs. What do you think about these guys? These guys are 1,000 in cost. I remember that. They're decent. They're pretty good, I think. Decent.
Honestly, yeah, it sounds weird, but I think they're good. Or not good, but
they're
considering you have no fast infantry, like that's
anything.
Probably
you're fast anything. This is like one of your best fast things in terms of killing infantry. This is your fast-moving infantry killer, pretty much. Are these and the unmounted variant?
I think they're fine in B.
Yeah, B. We can again move around at the end in retrospect, but for now I think B is suitable for those. And then just because we're keeping with the theme, we may as well look at the unmounted variant, which is the Plague Toads of Nurgle. These have the trade-off of, again, they just have a very similar thing to what the Rotfly suffers. They just have less melee defense, less weapon strength, and I think some less armor as well. No, less armor, less leadership. So it's a slight downgrade, but I think you save like a good 300 gold.
Actually, I think it's more. I think it's like 400. I think 400. 650 to 1,000. So, okay, 350 yuan.
Oh, hi, Shog. As well.
Yeah, 350 gold. So, like, for 3 of them, you can get another one.
Right, yeah, so it's like... Would you take the unmounted or mounted variant more often? I feel like I do take the unmounted variant a lot. I might be even tempted to put them A.
Yeah, I played them a bit, and honestly, I would say they are A. Like, considering in any other faction, it would probably be shit, but
in this faction, they do better. So yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks. Also, happy you enjoyed Shog, by the way.
Yeah, Warhammer 3 is like, honestly, I still like the game, but
it's got a way to go. It's had a much more rocky launch than like 2 and 1 had.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, as soon as everything's fixed up, we'll say this is the best one by far. We'll just say rocky launch. Just Mortal Empires and everything else needs to get into it.
Also, I like how people are still figuring out how shit works, because everyone said Cathay was basically the shittiest faction.
Yeah, now they're
and honestly now people are figuring out, and I don't think they're even the second to worst now. I think. But anyway,
yeah, next Furies. Nurgle one's the second worst one in my opinion of the 4. Not that they're bad.
Put them at the worst.
Would you? Like, I think Slanesh ones are worse. I mean, it might just be because Slanesh ones, the AP is really useless against other demons, unless you're fighting like very specific.
I would put them in D tier, because I think they're horrible. Like even compared to Slanesh variants, I think they're worse. But
yeah,
in the roster, they were probably okay, because you have no fast flying, but like the issue is why you can't use the plague drones reliably, because you need a Fury that's actually useful. and you don't have
that.
that in this Fury. Like you need to you remember that game we did with Khorne versus Nurgle Furies, and I think you could take 2 of my Furies on with 1 Khorne Fury if you got the charge off or something.
Because all Nurgle Furies get is like poison and some extra melee defense. That's it.
They got the passive as well, so like
that's the melee defense they get extra. Is that a passive? They don't even get a base.
Doesn't it? But it +9 melee defense. If anyone knows Cloud of Flies, almost all Nurgle units have that, or at least the demon ones, +9 melee defense.
Yeah, that's a new thing to Nurgle. Again, it's like these Chaos Furies of Nurgle would be really good in Warhammer 2, but when you put them up against like the current Warhammer 3 factions, they don't do good against other demon factions because the Furies beat them, or they're Slaanesh, in which case they're pretty useless. And they do okay, I think, against like maybe like Cathay. I think you kind of need them in like the Cathay matchup, not so much the Kislev matchup. A little bit in the Kislev, but not that much. I'd put them like maybe B.
Yeah, maybe just because they're useful in like 2 matchups at the moment, and they will be much more useful once
in the future,
Warhammer 2 factions.
Forsaken of Nurgle. These are your typical Forsaken. They don't get Cloud of Flies. They're just Forsaken with poison.
In this army, I would put them maybe at B or A. Because they're your fastest unit.
They are your fast. Yeah, they're pretty nice to have in the Nurgle roster. That's for certain. They're not really like needed in like the Khorne one because you have blood letters. They're not needed in the Zinch one because you just shoot everything. They're not needed in the Slaanesh one because everything's faster. They only really fit in the Nurgle roster, even though Zinch does get one of them. You don't really see that much on Zinch, but we'll get onto that. Yeah, B, A. I'll put an A. Now a unit I think is very good for the costs, and everyone does bring them Nurglings. Classic Nurglings. If any unit, like 350, it's really good for the cost. It is substantially good and solid. Lots of HP, lots of models. They've got all the little abilities. They got the poison. They got the Cloud of Flies, which means their melee defense will be higher and they'll last longer. They get Vanguard deployment. They cause fear because they're demons.
Yes, I would say A because I don't want to put any unit.
I don't want to. Yeah, I know.
category.
You do hesitate. I mean, there is one unit I might put in S. We'll get onto that. I definitely put these in A.
Yeah, like they're really good.
Yeah, really solid for the cost. Next is a Rot Bearers. That's what they're called, Rot Bearers. Rot Bearers, right? Do you even have Rot Bearers on here?
What do you mean with Rot Bearers?
I forgot.
Sorry.
Oh, Plague Bearers. That's the one.
Plague Bearers. Yeah. What do you? Guys, go on.
Yeah. So Plague Bearers.
Yeah.
Huge HP pool for infantry. 11,000 HP. That's a lot of HP.
I think that's a mammoth in Warhammer 2.
Yeah, that's like the Tide in Warhammer 2 as well. Has a lot of HP, and they have 32 melee defense plus like another 9 because they have Cloud of Flies. They definitely last long. But then the issue again comes in is that in the matchup, they don't tend to do super great. I think just because they're slow speed and everything, they definitely would perform again a lot better in Warhammer 2. Put them up against like any Warhammer 2 basic infantry, they beat like any of them. Apart from like Dryads or something. I'm unsure where to put these. I'd probably put them like which do I think they deserve A tier or am I more like B tier? What do you think?
I would put them in B because the issue is they get shot to pieces and they get killed by other demons because
they're very slow.
Like the only thing they have going for them is their huge HP pool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. B. I would say Forsaken are the better infantry.
Also, Incap wants. Incap, you mean got to be A in S in?
Got to be A for
yeah,
Nurgle.
but Incap says they will do what they're made for, to be honest. But honestly, they're supposed to outlast the enemy, but they hardly get to because they get killed by ranged, if like up against Kislev or against Cathay, and against Khorne they lose. Slaanesh surrounds them and basically annihilates you, and then they're not doing that. Like they're not surviving that much because if they get surrounded, which you can really easily do with Nurgle, they get annihilated.
Yeah,
they last longer, yes, but
the main problem is just the matchups for Warhammer 3. Like, obviously, Khorne and Zinch Furies beat them. They don't really do anything against Slaanesh. Cathay can just shoot them, and Kislev infantry will hold longer than they will. So it's like, yeah, they made what they do, but they just don't weigh up compared to the other factions.
I mean, if they get like a missile resistance, they might be decent.
Yeah.
But yeah.
As they stand, they're like good. They'd be really good in Warhammer 2. Replace Harpies with them, and maybe see a lot more, but just not as they stand. Exalted Plague Bearers of Nurgle. The old. I've not used these guys once, I don't think. They just seem so expensive and so slow. Against any missile faction, they're a field day.
The Plague Bearers, but worse.
They are. They're stronger, they have more HP and everything, but that doesn't help when they're moving the same speed.
They get a missile attack, which is horrible compared to like Kislev's version.
Yeah.
And they get 2 ammunition, so like nothing. I would put them in D or F.
Yeah, I say D. It's like I feel
yeah.
like they can be good against one of the maybe against Khorne or Slaanesh, but that's about it.
Incap says he thought we were talking about Furies, not Plague Bearers. Yeah, honestly, I mean, there's a case to be made that they're like the Exalted Plague Bearers are doing what the normal ones should be. I had them today being surrounded by like 3 Khorne infantry units, and they survived for ages, which is why I think the normal Plague Bearers should be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then would Knogle actually would be decent, but this would probably also be advanced because people would abuse it. But just make a box.
Yeah, they're not bad infantry at all by any means. Against demons, you probably do bring Plague Bearers instead of Forsaken. In terms of the mortal matchups, you bring Forsaken instead of Plague Bearers. It's just whether or not they have missiles or not, whether or not you bring Forsaken or Plague Bearers. So that's why, but typically speaking, the Forsaken do perform a bit better. Should I put Exalted ones in C because they do perform like against Slaanesh and Khorne? That's really it, though.
I mean, I feel like we probably are doing Nurgle way too good at the moment, but put them in C maybe because they might have the matchups.
They might, but now I'll go to the end. At the end, I'll bring back to them.
Honestly, I would put everything put them in C and then put everything down 1 tier. So,
wow,
no.
Just to balance it. Okay, next up, a unit that we could talk well about: a Beast of Nurgle. What? You go first on these.
I'm pretty sure that's the one you want to put in S.
Maybe.
Because I know you like that.
It is the anti-large. Is really the main thing you have to take down other single entities.
Hey, so honestly, this unit has no right to be as good as it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's dirt cheap with 800 gold. Mm-hmm. It has regeneration, which is really good
for the cost.
Yeah, which is really good at the moment because you have not a lot of fire damage, and it is surprisingly fast for a snail. It's durable because it doesn't have huge hitbox.
And it's got the cloud of flies.
Yeah, it's really good for the cost.
What does the slime trail do again?
It just reduces it's also really good because that reduces speed, so things can't get away from you as fast, and it reduces melee attack by 5.
Oh, nice. Yes, that makes it even better. Yeah, S tier.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Inkip and you. Maybe I wouldn't put any unit in S tier, but probably this one deserves.
This one for Knogle, relative to Nurgle, yeah, this deserves the S tier, I think. Great unclean one.
If you
bring 2 of these, and
if you bring 2 of these, as you've seen last week or 2 weeks last week, you can beat up Scarbrand pretty easily and win against Willow, and then he's dumbfounded for like 10 minutes because he couldn't figure out how he lost.
Why you lost?
I think a lot of strategies for Nurgle resolve around bringing like 2 great unclean ones, like a Lord or at least one other, because they don't die unless you focus fire them, which you can actually do, and they actually do decent because you heal them.
Yeah.
So
healing,
in the roster,
healing works especially well for Nurgle just because of how big the HP pools now. Now that they've changed how healing works, instead of a flat value, it's percentage based. that means you get a lot more bang for your buck when your unit's got a huge amount of HP, which like a lot of Nurgle units have. So their healing does pay off quite well for them. They also have their bound spells as well. Stream of Corruption and Miasma of Pestilence. Which are okay, but usually you just bring a caster for that. It seems you can't not bring a caster. Pretty similar to a giant in the regards that you don't want this thing to get shot. But it's like, how good is it? I don't think it's better than it's not as good as the Beast of Nurgle, that's for certain.
No, not nearly. Incap says put them in B. I would say I agree.
Yeah, I'd say B. Yeah, B. I'll say B. B it is.
Also, they come with 2 bounce, or not bounce spells, but they come with 2 spells.
Yeah.
Which still take up your Winds of Magic for some reason.
Yeah,
so...
they're not like bound abilities. They're just bound spells.
And you can't take them off, which I think is just horrible.
It's because it's not a hero. You can't usually take things off. Anything that isn't a hero or a lord. Next, Soul Grinder of Nurgle. Good Knogle. Why is it Soul Grinder?
It's an artillery piece.
Yeah.
I mean, you can actually aim that artillery piece, not like the corn shit. And it does decent damage. Against infantry, it's good. I think it doesn't do too much damage in melee, though.
I don't think the Soul Grinder's on here, by the way.
Like I would say you mainly bring this for the artillery. I think against Kislev, they're decent they're good because you can kill the expensive artillery really easily.
Yeah, they're
like the Zargard
as well, yeah. Don't do quite as well against like Cathay because they've got the cannons, and the cannons could just shoot them. But the for those tight infantry formations, I think Khorne as well they can do well against as well, just because they shoot up the infantry. It's nice to have an artillery in the demon faction, especially one that moves so fast. And then in melee, it's not even that bad because it's a Soul Grinder. It's like not too far off a Great Unclean one. I wish I had the stat card here, but it's not here. Sag. Where would you put them? Soul Grinders, I think I'd put them A? Question mark? A tier?
Yeah, I would say between A and B. But
it's like, I think they're better than a Great Unclean one, so I want to put them A. But
yeah,
they're worse than the Beast and Nurgle, so it's like, yeah.
Way worse than the Beast, but I would say they're similar to a Great Unclean one, but yeah, put them in A.
Okay, and then finally we have the Spawn of Nurgle.
Kind of basically the same as the Furies.
Yeah, same situation. But these are better because where Furies are designed for like the quick pick-off, Spawn are kind of designed to hold, so they work better than the Chaos Furies, I'd say.
I would say they're also like probably the worst.
Yeah.
The worst Spawn.
No, I think the Celeste one are. I think Celeste Spawn are the worst. Just AP, that's all they get. And something else, but it's very good.
Yeah, but Zinch. Doesn't Zinch get... I mean, Zinch get devastating flanker, so... Which you don't flank
we don't flank with Chaos Spawn.
Yeah. Okay, maybe, but...
They're still not that good. It's like, you just need Forsaken usually, or like Plague Bearers. You don't usually need Spawn on top of that.
With how the mass currently works, and that you can trap like a lot of units with something that you would consider to be like with all the demon factions, you can trap usually a smaller lord with Chaos Spawn, not maybe Scarbrand size, but the smaller ones, or the human lords, you can usually trap them with Spawn. So this is why they're good, but objectively seen, and if you think about it, that I think that's still kind of a mass issue with the game. I don't think I would put them in B at most, because also they're compared to any other Spawn, they're garbage. I mean, maybe it's not
I might put them C, honestly. I probably do bring the Furies more. I definitely wouldn't put them at the same level as like everything that's on B. So I bring them nearly as often as the stuff I bring on B.
Yeah, probably because you have the Pox Riders, which cost the same and are faster. Yeah, probably C.
Okay, that is it for the Nurgle one. Nurgle. With that, now we move on to Zinch. My expertise. Finally.
Oh,
Okay. Don't know. Did you start doing Cathay?
for some reason I thought we were doing Cathay today. Yeah.
Zinch. Said it was Zinch.
Yeah, you should actually do something for. Okay, I'm starting.
Starting it. What's an easy one to go through? You just starting it. First one you put in, first one I see. You even asked me earlier. He's like, "What are we doing today?" Nurgle, and I said, "Like, okay, I'll start doing Cathay then."
Can I say I'm old?
Oh yeah, blame it on your old
Brain
age.
is as it used to be.
Zerk, what are you doing, Zerk? Come on, Zerk, can't be doing that. Pick up the pace. Why are you putting them in the I guess we're just putting them in the. We'll move them later.
I'm just putting him in the first
Yeah, okay,
channel
sure.
I find.
Alright, start with Blue Horrors of Zinch. Okay, yeah. I mean, I have to sort them relative to Zinch, but basically these guys are a nice 400 gold, cheap, ranged unit that do way more damage than they should, and that can hold way longer than they should. They have HP more than they should. I'd say A. I say in any other faction these be S, but because it's Zinch, there's A.
I
What do you
would
think?
honestly. I could. I mean, you can put half the roster in. Yeah, I see it in the roster, then A.
Yeah, okay. It is.
They are just like anything in this roster is half of the
Except
unit.
Forsaken of Zinch. I wouldn't actually put these that high. Relative to the roster, I do not bring these too often because you don't need to. The only reason you'd bring these against is maybe against Cathay, because they do better against like Jade Warriors with their shields and stuff. But even then, I'd be more tempted to bring Horrors. They're not out of the question. Forsaken are just not nearly as good in this roster. They don't play as well with the rest of the units. I'd put them C, relative, C.
I would. Yeah, maybe C. Yeah, you are the expert. You don't play Zinch at all, at all.
Hurdle ever?
Like,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Broken and boring. But
That's why I play it. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
That's why I'm here. Next is the pink horrors of Zinch. So the main distinction you can make between pink horrors and blue horrors is pink horrors have a lot more ammo, and they do more range damage, and they have more range. So they're a lot more focused on the ranged category. That's why they're under ranged missiles, and these guys are under melee for some reason. And they are slightly better in melee as well. These are basically just an upgraded version of the blue horrors, more focused on ranged. And as a result, they do tend to perform better in range because they have a lot more to throw. Obviously, blue horrors usually run out after 5 volleys, and they don't do as much damage, and they don't have as much range, so they can't even usually get all their volleys off. Saying that, they do also have less health, and as a result, less holding power, less of a chaff factor, and because they're more expensive, usually you just mix pink and blue horrors together, and so I'd probably just put them in A tier. Along with blue horrors.
Aren't they? Couldn't they be? Aren't they S? I thought they would be S.
They're very similar in close because of how cheap blue horrors are. Like I think, if I remember right, pink horrors like 750 or 800. How much are they?
No, 700 of pink horrors.
700. So you can nearly get 2 units of blue horrors for a unit of pink horrors, and that's like worth it. It's just the pricing is a bit too much for them to be considered S, and there's things that we might consider S before them. But we'll get on to that. Finally, in terms of pink horrors, I think you've got the Exalted ones here. I think I actually rank the Exalted ones the lowest, just because for how expensive they are, they're not worth it. They're good, but they're not nearly as good as the blue and pink horrors are. Like, in your experience facing against them, what do you think? They do have the Arcane Mirth, which I remember rightly gives like extra spell stuff to get more winds of magic. Whenever you have an Exalted, can you just check?
Yeah, but no, you don't get more winds of magic. You get power recharge rate.
Power recharge rate. So yeah, they recharges faster. But like Zinch already gets that a lot. You can usually just bring like a Lord, and that'll give you enough recharge. You don't usually need these guys with that ability.
I don't think I've seen them ever, or like not really.
No.
And the issue is, for the price for one, you can get a pink and a blue.
Yeah, which is just better. So it's like I might put these C as well. Again, in any other faction, these would probably be like A, but in this faction, C, maybe B. I'll stick him in B for now.
See it.
C it is then.
I would rather put the Forsaken in B, but so.
Sure, we'll look at it at the end. Next we have Chaos Knights of Zinch. These are Chaos Knights with Barrier. That just makes them better than regular Chaos Knights. Regular Chaos Knights weren't that good. They're alright. These are pretty good. I wouldn't say they're amazing. I'd say they're pretty solid in the roster. I'd put them B.
Yeah, the only thing that's holding them back is that they're a melee cav and not shock.
Not a shock cav, which is usually what you want. It's a shock cav, but even with 44 charge bonus, you can use them as a shock cav usually. But I'd say B.
Yeah, B definitely.
B suits. These are just big, heavily armored guys. It says they're anti-infantry just because they're melee, but it's like if they're a shock cav, they'd be more anti-infantry. I don't get some of CA's wordings. Next, we have Doom Knights of Zinch. These guys are a flying disc cav. Quite interesting. Quite an interesting unit. Nothing you can really. I guess you can compare them to like Pegasus Knights, without the anti-large. They are fast, that's for certain. They have the barrier. Yeah, they have quite awkward melee stats. They're like aspiring champions that can fly. I don't know exactly how high I rank them.
I would put them in D or
D? You think they're
maybe
D?
F.
Wow, F.
D or F, because I don't think I've ever seen them.
No. We'll get onto it next, but you can just bring Furies ready for all their jobs. Their jobs are just
like they're not armor piercing.
No.
They have higher weapon strength than Chaos Knights, but they also have like only 16 less models.
Yeah, 24 models.
They cost more. They can fly, okay, but like you don't unless you're fighting against Slanesh, I don't think that's useful because you're getting shot apart. They have 16 less melee defense, so they take damage like there's no tomorrow. And
yeah, they're not that good.
Yeah.
They're not awfully good.
I would put them in D, maybe not F, but also Ryan wants to know how high a charge bonus would need to be before you would classify them as shock cav.
I wouldn't how CA defines them is quite varied. Like they define things quite awkwardly, but like 44, that's not bad. Like going 40, 50, that sort of region is where you start to think I can just use them as a shock cav. Like Chaos Knights are quite on the border with that. They're classified as a melee cav, but in reality, with 44 charge bonus, it's mainly the fact that just turning them around is harder in Warhammer 3 than it is in Warhammer 2. Back in Warhammer 2, between 40 and 50 would have been it. It probably has gone up a bit in Warhammer 3.
50 above 50 was, I think, the barrier that CA used.
Yeah, that's what CA used.
Or roughly that. I think 60 is like I think most had 60 or shock cav, and then there were a couple like Knights of the Blazing Sun with like 70 something.
Yeah, you could get some cheap shop cav that only had like 40, I think.
Yeah. Like Knights of the Empire Knights. I think they had something in the 40s, 50s.
It does really. You have to like look at the value and then look at the stats to think, okay, so it's got a lot of melee attack and a lot of melee defense, and not as high charge bonus. I should probably just use these as a melee cav. If something has like awful melee attack and awful melee defense but really high charge bonus, that's when you use it as a shock cav. So Chaos Knights, as much as the cycle charging usually is nice, then they are more of a melee cav just because they have 44 melee attack and 52 melee defense. But then you also bring into the fact that they have barrier, which is something that you could recharge by cycle charging. You could use them either way, to be honest. That's probably why they didn't add Chaos Knights with Lances, because they fit both roles. If you want to use as shock, if you want to use them just as melee. I mean, typically speaking, if you run them into a cheap infantry, they'll be a shock, so they'll just run through it.
Like shock cav should probably have 50 plus charge bonus and under 30 melee defense, and maybe then more melee attack.
Yeah. So you have to
more than 44, but
you have to consider what you're paying for, because Chaos Knights you're paying for the melee stats, not so much the charge bonus. Especially with 120 armor, Jesus.
A Chaos Chariot of Zinch, or whatever it's exactly called. Burning Chariot.
Burning Chariot of Zinch. Man, I think this is awful. I think this is it. I brought this like twice. The angle is so awful. It has no ammo, and as a chariot, it's absolutely functionless.
Yes, but you're not supposed to use that as a chariot.
How are you supposed to use it?
You're supposed to. Didn't you remember? I did that in the game.
What was that you did for it?
Okay, this one, it's a chariot. Forget about that shit. It's not a chariot. It's supposed to be a single entity sniper.
Mm-hmm.
It like 1,400 weapons rank. I think it deletes single entities, which you don't need in this roster.
You really don't need in this roster because you have like everything else that does that 10 times over. But yeah.
Like you can't if you used it from a really close range, it absolutely deletes infantry because you can't dodge not infantry, single entities because you can't dodge it.
Yeah.
It's accurate enough on short range if it like hovers above to actually kill even normal. Yeah, it's great at single entity sniping, as Inke points out. But I think you don't need this exactly in the roster. Because you are already good at sniping with just volley
everything,
of fire.
or just like use Kairos and keep using blue fire until something dies. That's enough. With the amount of magic and recharge you get, that's all you need, really. It's
So it also does melee. It makes warp flame, so like minus fire resistance.
Yeah, but so does like
melee.
A lot. Like blue fire also does that.
Horrible. Yeah. So, I mean, you're supposed to use it as a single entity sniper. So, I would say C or D. Inkep says C.
I'd say D.
Yeah, I probably agree. They're good for fun if
they have their one use. It's a shame that the rest of the army also fits that one use.
Like if you want to annoy your opponent, make him rage quit, you can use.
You could do that. And, oh, look at me! But then when it runs out of ammo, you're just like, oh well, I guess I can't use this anymore.
And it's 1,700.
Yeah, Iron Blaster's bad Chariot, but they also have a lot more ammo than this thing has. This thing can fire 9 times before it runs out. And an Iron Blaster can do what this thing does from like 10 miles away. This thing has to hover over right on top of it and hope that the enemy has no flying units, because God knows it'll get smashed by any flying unit. Anyway, next, Chaos Furies of Zinch. Well, these are probably S tier. What do you think? They are. What is this? I think they just get barrier, don't they? The Zinch version.
Yeah, they get barrier.
It's all also, magic attacks.
Yeah, probably.
But it's like, are they S tier though? That's a question.
I mean, you're the expert here.
It's like when I compare them to, obviously Corn Furies are the best. Or are they? I think Corn Furies beat Zinch Furies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, because of just how good everything in the Zinch roster is, Chaos Furies with Zinch do not shine quite as much as like say Corn Furies do in the Corn roster. I might move them down to A tier actually. At the end I might put something to S tier, but I don't think that's S tier. I think that's A tier. I think that's, you bring it a lot of the time, but you don't bring it all the time. Like, you don't bring it against Corn.
A thing to consider is you can summon Furies.
Yeah. It's only regular Furies, but yeah. It's the summon, because all the, I know a lot of, I think it's all the generic lords or the generic greater demons have the Fury spawn, but it's regular Furies, not like their own Furies for some reason. I guess CA couldn't be bothered to make unique Fury spells. You just summon basic Chaos Furies instead of anything special.
So I mean, not the Zinch Furies, but like that's why they're probably not that high, because you can get them for free. 2 uses.
Yeah, they're not quite S. Next, though, we have Screamers of Zinch. These guys, I used to think weren't very good. Now I think they're better than that. They're the only thing in the roster with anti-large, but since you have so many missile units, you don't really need it. But they definitely do have their purposes with their AP and their anti-large. I do like to run them in the backs of heavy cav that you tend to bring against Zinch because it runs through everything. And they're quite cheap. How much are they again?
850.
850. They're not that cheap, but cheap enough. They're definitely nowhere like A. I don't think. I think they're like B or C. What's your experience playing these days?
I mean, I tend to avoid matches against Zinch because random people are boring, and you are also
boring.
Boring, annoying to fight against because pendulum spam. You are annoying to fight against because it's still you.
Yeah.
So I don't run into Zinch that often. I would say maybe B, because I think they're not bad. Also, Incap wants to call your well, he just says expert.
Yeah, I see that. He just says expert in quotation marks. To get clever, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think these. I'm gonna have a fiddle around at the end, but I'm gonna put that for B for now.
Yeah. It looks like we're putting like not a lot in the high tier, but that's just because
It's
its
relative.
faction itself is insanely good.
Yeah, if we did it by faction, Nurgle would have everything at C and D, and Zinch would have everything at S and A, and we wouldn't be here very long. Next spawn of Zinch. A pretty solid spawn that actually plays quite nicely with the faction, in my opinion. The armor sundering, when a lot of the faction doesn't actually have AP, does help. In my experience, the issue is the fact that so much of your army is usually ranged. These guys just tend to get in the way of your ranged units firing. What do you?
Okay, Shogunik wants to point out Screamers are really good against Ogres. Probably because they're easier to hit.
Yeah,
And
everything's large. It helps a lot.
Yeah, the HP pool is bigger, and the Screamers do have a shit amount. Like, they have 340 weapons, missile strength, so it's insane. It's probably overkill for any infantry unit.
Mm-hmm.
But for Ogres, they have a much bigger HP pool, so you can actually get much more value out of the one attack if it hits.
Yeah.
So yes, probably fitting them around. I think. No, Willow, you put the Screamers in and not the Flamers. Are you talking about Screamers? Oh, for fuck's sake, I was thinking about Flamers.
We talking about Screamers. We said Flamers.
Oh, dumb. Okay, yeah, Screamers.
I'm going in the order you listed.
Okay, so forget everything I just said. Screamers of Zinch, yeah. Good, anti-large. Nothing to say.
Nothing to say, yeah. Let's talk about Spawn now.
Spawn. Yes, I know we talk about Spawn now. I was wondering why you put the Flamers in front. That's okay. Screamers. Correction. Screamers are 700, not 850.
Ah, right, okay. I thought that was a bit much. Yeah, 700. That's even always like, yeah, that's nice, cheaper. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So Spawn of Zinch, they've got armor sundering and barrier. The armor sundering helps quite nicely because a lot of the Zinch roster isn't armor piercing. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah. Again, okay. The armor sundering really good. Also, they're spawn, so they will get in the way and stay there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only problem you have is because they're large.
Yeah, they get in the way of missiles, yeah.
They get in the way of missiles, and you take more damage than by your own friendly fire than you should.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's volume of fire. Yeah. There is like positions where you could use them. I'm not going to discount them. I'd probably put them C. They are around C and B territory.
You can also pair them with Forsaken, which like you can always pair any spawn with Forsaken because that's usually good.
It's like you could have the really good pairing of Forsaken and Spawn, but why would you do that when you can just spam blue and pink horrors and just burn your enemies by throwing magic flames at them for the whole match and never stopping? We'll have a little fiddle around at the end. Lord of Change. This is definitely one of the stranger of the thing. Like when it comes to the single entity demons for the other factions, it's just throw it into melee and start hitting things, unless in that case it's throw it through melee and then loop it back around and throw it back through again. Lord of Change is a bit strange because he's a caster. You do want to use those blue and pink fires actually quite often, but he is actually decent in melee. He's just the worst of the four, but he can fly. I forget what did they get any extra special abilities, by the way, the Lord of Change? Their passive abilities. Is there anything special there?
Not really. They get their Fires of Change, so damage resistance when casting, which why would you put them in melee? They also don't have flaming attacks, so
yeah, they don't. That's true.
They're not getting that much value. I honestly don't think they're good.
No, yeah, they're not that good, to be fair. It's like if you want something like this, you can just bring the Lord variant. Yeah, I'd say C. Maybe D.
I would actually put them in D because,
D.
like, why? They're not that good in melee. Which, I mean, it's Zinch. Yes, they're not supposed to be, but I
guess it is like, it's so much harder to take advantage of that that barrier as well with these guys because they don't move in and out as fast and nicely, and they don't seem to have as much mass as like a Bloodthirster would. So yeah, I'd say D. Man, I really want to put that Burning Chariot into F, but I'll just keep it there for now. Next up, we have the Flamers of Zinch. Which one of these is the Flamers? I'm pretty sure this is the Flamer. This is the Flamer,
the right one is the Flamers.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
right,
also, you didn't. Did you put the lot of change even in, or is the delay is huge? Okay.
Yeah, Flamers of Zinch. These are pretty good. They burn things, and they burn them very well. This has to be the best flamethrower unit in all 3 games. Historically,
That's Skaven noises.
Yeah, historically, flamers are bad because they don't fire. Fire, get it? But these guys have the advantage of being tall and floating, which means they shoot over your infantry instead of trying to shoot through it, which makes it a lot better. They are very, very fragile, however. They only sit with they're 3,000 HP, 3,000 HP for 12 models. That is ridiculously small. They die super quick. So you just need to they're literally a glass cannon. They even look like glass. They're just a glass cannon. Definition. They're not as solid as like horrors. I think I'm just going to move blue and pink horrors up to S tier, honestly. I'm just going to do that now.
Yeah.
And then I put these guys probably like A or B.
I would say B because you have to keep them alive.
You do, yeah.
Their range isn't so big. You can put them behind your infantry because you have so much pink horrors and blue horrors. You can just use them as barriers, but then I don't have the most mass. Or
no, things can just run too. Yeah, B. Next is the Exalted Flamer of Zinch. Now this one, look, it says something when the single entity has the same amount of health as the 12 entities. Obviously, this guy doesn't die quite as fast because he's just one entity. But he does still die pretty quick, relative to a single entity would. But of course, he has the same weapon strength that the old Chariot has. So he is really good at melting single entities, assuming they're directly in front of him. But again...
Which he's not good at getting to because he's not flying.
No, he's hovering. Very different.
He's much cheaper though, with like 1,100. But...
So if we compare, so we've got the Exalted Flamer of Zinch got that 3,100 health, and then the Burning Chariot has... Where is the Burning Chariot? Burning Chariot has 4,900. So you're getting like 1,800 extra health. And the flying. And how much is the price difference? Between a Exalted Flamer?
600, 1,700 for the Chariot and 1,100 for the...
Exalted Flamer.
Yeah.
Obviously, the regular Flamer is a lot better at clearing out infantry because there's 12 of them. The Exalted Flamer is more focused on like single, individual, big, powerful entities. Man, I guess C for this one. I'd say C.
B or D, but probably C.
Yeah, C seems like a nice, a happy medium. Finally, we have the Soul Grinder of Zinch. These guys come equipped with a nice little missile attack. Think Ushabti Great Bow or like a Bone Giant. It's just a really powerful anti-large missile. It's a bit small, it tends to miss, but it is a nice missile attack. Similar to the Nurgle one. What are your thoughts on the Soul Grinder of Zinch?
I think they're good. Because you have an anti-large missile attack, which, as we said, they lack. Like Zinch lacks that. They're like probably the Slash one is way better, but
yeah, the Slash one's the best one, I think. But I'd say this one's definitely better than Khorne, and it's probably about equal to Nurgle's one.
I would rate Nurgle higher because infantry
relative to the roster, I think. Yeah. So definitely something to keep in mind there.
Probably C, maybe, because you don't need that. Screamers are faster, get more value out of their barrier because, like, the ability is so good.
I mean, Soul Grinders do run through quite nicely, so you can tend to run those out and recharge their barriers. You know how the Slanesh ones just go...
Yeah, but you need to run away far because ranged is the thing that does the damage for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Put them in C, maybe.
Yeah, C, okay.
it is nice if you need to actually get your opponent to fight you, because artillery piece.
Yeah, sort of 250 range, more like a great bow, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so a quick fiddle around. I really want to put this Chariot in F. If anything in the Zinch roster is F, it's probably this.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Just once it runs out of ammo, it's got nothing else to do. It's done. It's honestly kind of similar with the Exalted one, but at least
I would put the Exalted one lower as well.
Yeah, I'd put the Exalted one D.
I just tested him and he's not that good at shooting.
No, he's not. I'm tempted to put the Lord of Change higher because you compare the Lord of Change to the Soul Grinder. The Lord of Change actually has better melee stats than the Soul Grinder, and he also has pretty similar weapon strength.
Holy shit, yeah, he does.
And he flies. He's got more health as well, I think. 8,000. Okay, now 1,000 less health. But what's the price difference between the Lord of Change and the
200.
Less or more for which one's more?
200 more for the Sword Commander.
Oh, so yeah, it's cheaper as well. I think he discounted the Lord of Change too quickly. I think C is actually more suitable for him. Maybe B. It's like, which one do I bring more? No, I'd say C. I'd say we're at the same level as Sword Commander would. Forsaken, I think I might move up to B as well. Just because they do a lot better against Kislev and Cathay.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I would say that, yeah.
So do this against B. Anything else you can spot? You might think to move?
It's difficult because I don't play this army because it's boring. Yes.
Maybe you'd have fun if you played it once. Try playing it. You did play it a minute ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I played it today, and it's fun blasting off, but I don't.
It is fun blasting things.
I mean, who doesn't like playing a faction and just triple capping your opponent because he can't get out of this deployment zone because anything he spawns in gets blasted by pink and blue horrors? But it's fun once, and probably maybe more against random people. But if you're playing with friends,
you aren't playing with friends for long. That's for certain.
I know you would like. But anyway,
yeah, I think that's good. Would I put anything here? Extra A tier? Anything here go A tier? Maybe Knights A tier. Maybe no Knights.
I would say Screamers or Knights. I would put them one up. Because like usually if you like Screamers are really cheap, and if you go with two, you can kill Iron Blasters and anything in the Ogre roster pretty quickly. Same goes for like, I actually don't know how they do against Longmar Riders, but
yeah, we have to decide it. We've just established they're both similar tiers. We have to say how it really comes down to what the matchups are. So like Screamers are good against Ogres. They're good against. Is it just Ogres?
Maybe also like because Nurgle has a lot of flying, not of large targets, which are good.
Yeah, Rotfly is actually a pretty good fight for these. Yeah, Nurgle. Yeah. I mean, the amount that Zinch smashes Nurgle, I don't think they need Screamers.
Yeah,
you can usually just shoot those Rotflies out the sky with everything else.
Yeah, and also like Nurgle has so much HP that it's not that the Screamers don't kill that fast.
Whereas Chaos Knights, I'm like, they're good in Cathay, good in Kislev. So to avoid the bears. Good against Nurgle. Even good against Slanesh, I might say.
Yeah.
They don't typically bring the AP one, I don't think, against Zinch.
Maybe put the Chaos Knights one up.
Yeah, Chaos Knights go one up. Lucky Chaos Knights. Okay, I think that's enough. That will be the end of today's stream. We shall post these in the old Discord so that everyone can judge them accordingly. And we'll see you all next week when we do some replays of Knogle and Zinch.
Oh no, I have to fight you now, right?
Yes, good luck. Bye.